Gardens. Welcome. Wasps and butterflies. Thank you. You gotta come by sometime. I mean, actually walk in.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
This is beyond beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so start again. So a little bit about me. I was born and raised in Detroit, actually next door to the Garden. I went to Henry Ford High School, and for undergrad I went to Florida A&M University, also known as FAMU. Shout out to my Rattlers. After graduating, I moved back home for a period of time to go to grad school at Wayne State. After I graduated, I moved to New York City in order to pursue my career as an educator. I lived in New York City for 9 years, and I taught for 8 years in a middle school in the Bronx. And recently, I relocated back home in August of 2019 to trace my family's genealogy. As I started to trace my genealogy and spend more time here, I started to realize that I wasn't going back to New York, that I belonged home with my family. And after that, that's when I started to build the garden. So Griffin Gardens started on April 20th. That's when I broke ground. And it kind of just started as a means to do something with this land that my dad purchased, I think last year. He had been keeping it up, cutting the grass, every week. And when I moved back home in August, I would just look at the land. Like, it's sitting there, it's beautiful land, what can we do with it? And I thought, what about a garden? And that was when I decided I'm gonna build a garden on this lot. And I don't think I had really any idea how far I wanted it to go. I just wanted to plant flowers and food for the community. So that's kind of like where it started. So this is the first part of the garden. I could call it the first phase of the garden. This is where the vegetables and the fruits and flowers are planted. And all around the perimeter, you'll see all different kinds of flowers that are either native to Michigan, or they bring in the beneficial insects and pollinators that will help with not only the food, but just the ecosystem in general. So the focus was to bring in bees, butterflies, and hummingbirds. And I have seen all three so far in the garden. These are wildflowers, as you can see. You see all these bees around, right? We already know what's happening. Well, you might not actually know that there's an issue with bees. Again, same thing, they're losing their habitat. And so there has been this push to plant wildflowers. And it's so easy. You just literally, throw the seeds in some soil, cover it up, and it'll be like this. And all these bees are just in and out, just living their best life. See, there are 8 beds that I tilled in April. And besides this bed, which is my experimental bed, the rest of these have what they call cover crops. And cover crops are planted to mediate the soil, to break it up, to aerate the soil, and actually add nutrients to it. Because I don't believe that this land has ever been planted on besides grass. And so I'm just giving the land some love this year, and next year I'll be growing food and different flowers in all these beds. This is my sunflower row, and besides the fact that sunflowers give you sunflower seeds and they're just beautiful, this is all over like 7 feet tall at this point. Sunflowers are really good at extracting different like poisons that are in the soil, like lead and other things that I can't think of right now. They're really good with taking it from the soil and purifying it. So like if there were some sort of biological chemical that was put into like a area, you will see like the government plant sunflowers all around because that's what they naturally do. So you don't have to always just abandon the land. You just have to figure out what plants can actually help kind of, clean out the air and clean out the soil. So that's what the sunflowers are doing. And they're also cute. Yeah. So I'm an educator at heart, right? That's my career. That's kind of like how I see things in general. So, when you talk about building up a community, it starts with the children. The adults kind of already are stuck in their ways and they already know how they want to move in this world. But I really want to be able to have this as a space for kids too. Even just looking at like next year, I want to start raising monarch butterflies. And I've seen the process and I think it would be amazing to have a bunch of kids here kind of seeing that process too. Because they're naturally inquisitive, but if they're not exposed to different ideas and understanding how important nature is, then they won't be able to get into it, right? It's like expose them to it and they'll be into it. Just even looking around this area, it's because these homes were demolished, all this nature is just growing and it's beautiful. And it's not only beautiful, but there are so many herbs that are out here that are good for our bodies, right? But we're not taught that. We were never taught that as an adult, and they weren't taught that. So it'll just always be looked at as, oh, these are weeds, this don't look good, but how do we kind of reshape the way the youth see see plants and they see nature? So I'm hoping that next year I can bring some kids in for classes or even have them intern with me. So I know a lot of like high school seniors, they need community service hours, like even having them have certain plots where they grow food and they learn. And then, once you get them, that's it. In the city of Detroit, currently there are over 20,000 vacant lots. That means there is land that is empty, that originally housed businesses or homes that were demolished over time and they are just sitting. And there is a program in the city called Detroit Land Bank Association where they have a program that if you own a home that is adjacent to a vacant lot, then you can purchase that lot for, drum roll please, $100. Yes, I said it, $100. You can buy a plot of land and you can own it. It can be a part of your family's legacy, your wealth, and you can plant things like a garden on it, if you will. So my dad, he acquired this lot through the program, and we're hoping going forward that we can acquire more of these lots because it's just land here that I can, over time, add to the garden. Griffin Gardens at this point is constantly evolving. When I first began the garden, it was just build a garden that would bring beauty to the community. And that's still in the mission, but it has grown to the point where I want to bring health and awareness and education to this neighborhood and the community abroad. I would say one of the first things I've done is to bring in a yoga instructor that does yoga classes every Saturday. So not only, having vegetables and herbs that will educate the community on what kind of foods they can eat, but also looking at alternative ways to exercise, because we've all been kind of accustomed to the gym or jogging or walking, but what are some, I guess, non-traditional exercises, and I say non-traditional when it comes to our community, because I feel like we don't see that often, Black folks doing yoga. And if we do, it's kind of like in an indoor space, bringing it outside so that when people walk past, they can see what's going on. So I would say, again, the mission is constantly evolving. I can see so much in the future as far as what I want this to look like, but right now it's just a space in a community where people can come, they can relax, they can learn about vegetables, they can get some vegetables, they can learn about fruits, they can get some fruits if it's available, they can come take some classes. It's a lot going on, but just stay tuned. I just saw what I believe to be a swallowtail butterfly, and I've seen butterflies in the garden before, but this is the biggest butterfly I've ever seen so far in my life. So it was really beautiful to see. And butterflies have such a spiritual meaning behind it, so just being able to walk into the garden and see butterflies was a lot for me.